Welcome to another Trackit training video. In today's video, we're going to talk about asset management in Trackit. So with this particular installation that I have here, I went ahead and selected to install BMC Client Management along with Trackit when I did the installation. And so because of that, the BMC Client Management server is right here on my Trackit server as well. And all of those settings have been automatically configured for me. So in case you were not aware, the asset management module in Trackit is now powered by BMC Client Management. So BMC Client Management is the server and agent behind the scenes that is doing the discovery and the inventory auditing of the workstations and handling remote control capabilities. And we'll be adding other capabilities to this in the future. But for today, we're just going to talk about the configuration of it. So as I was saying before, the BMC Client Management server was installed along with this. So the configuration is already set up. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like. So I'm going to go into my configuration module here. Notice we have an asset management section. And now we have some pods here that talk about the BMC Client Management configuration, the synchronization of the data between BMC Client Management and Trackit, how to configure network discovery, and how to configure agent rollouts. So first thing we're going to do is take a look at the BMC Client Management configuration. Now, if you installed BMC Client Management along with Trackit, you won't have to do anything in here. It'll automatically be filled out for you. So I'm going to go ahead and just go in here and show you what that looks like. So it's going to show the name of the server, the default port. Of course, it's using SSL to communicate, and the password and username are here below. And if you want to check it just to make sure it's working, you can press test connection, and you should get a message up here that says connection set up successfully. Below that, you'll notice database settings, and this part is actually for the reporting function in Trackit so that you can actually pull reports on your assets and asset information into Trackit reports. Same thing here, this should be set up automatically for you if you install BMC Client Management along with the Trackit installation. This should be all set up for you. You can click test connection, it says been set up successfully. Now, if you are a current BMC Client Management user, and you are installing the new version of Trackit and you want to use your current BMC Client Management installation, you would select to not install BMC Client Management during the Trackit install, and then you come in here and enter your server name and your credentials and things, and it will just link Trackit right up to your existing BMC Client Management server. This is already set up, so I'm going to go back. Asset synchronization, this is another piece you should define. This basically tells Trackit how often to go over to BMC Client Management and sync that asset data into the system. So all you need to do for this is enable it and select a time of day and hit save here in the top right. And if you want to sync on demand, you just press sync now, and it'll go ahead and connect to Client Management, pull over any new data, and it'll tell you if there were new assets found or if there were assets that needed to be updated. So we're going to go back. And now we're going to look at network discovery. This is the first part of your inventory creation here because it's going to go out onto your network, scan an IP range, and find all the assets that are out there. So I'm going to go into network discovery. You're going to see your scanner, which is your BMC Client Management server, and you can see my last scan and what the schedule is set up for and all of that kind of information. When you first come into here, a lot of this is going to be empty, and so the first time you're going to click on Edit Configuration to set it all up. Once you're in edit configuration, you'll notice that there are several different types of protocols that it wants to know if you want to use. So if you have Windows machines on your network, Unix machines or Mac machines, if you have VMware servers, Hyper-V servers, or if you want to search for printers and routers and that type of thing, you should turn all these protocols on. Now they're on by default because we try to discover everything, but you can turn those off if you don't want to look for those types of things. There's a section over here to add credentials. Now if you add Windows credentials here, for example, if you click on Add Edit, it'll show you down here is a list of all the current credentials, and you can add a login ID and a password here. And if you have a domain that you want to use, you can go ahead and type in, the name of the domain, and then the account, and then the password, and then you click Add, and it'll add those credentials. And you can add as many credentials as you want. So if you have several different accounts for several different types of systems out there on your network, you can add all of those, and then you can click OK. Those credentials will be used when discovering these machines. A good example of how this is used is, if you're familiar with this, there's something in Windows called WMI, and I believe that stands for Windows Management Instrumentation. And if you have credentials in here for Windows machines, the discovery will try to connect to that service to discover information about the system. If you don't put any credentials in here, you're most likely going to get an IP address and a MAC address and maybe a name of the device. So once you've got credentials straightened out for discovery, you want to go ahead and add your target IP ranges. So if you click on New here, you'll notice in the instructions here, you can enter a specific IP address. You can use a range of IP addresses by using a hyphen like this. You can also put down IP ranges to exclude down here at the bottom. You can also do ranges of IP addresses separated by commas. So if you have multiple IP ranges that you want to scan, you could enter those in separated by commas. So you could do 192.168.1.1 to 192.168.1.25, and then I could enter a comma. Then I can enter my next range, 192.168.1.50 to 192.168.1.75. So this is going to scan the IP range, the internal IP range, 1 to 25 and 50 to 75, and not do anything between 26 and 49, and not do anything after 75. I could also change this and just say 75. So now I'm doing 1 to 75, and then I could enter in exclusion ranges down here. If you want to separate these out and put different ones in, you could add multiples here, and that may help you keep it a little more organized if you'd like. So once I have my target set up, I go down to my schedule, and I have enabled my schedule to go daily every day at 8 a.m. I'm going to save my scan configuration, and you'll notice it says reassignment waiting here. That's because it's actually communicating with the BMC client management server right now to send the changes in configuration over there that I just entered. So if I hit the little refresh here, you'll notice now it says update sent, and then here in a minute, it shows scheduled. Now, if I want to kick off a scan right now, I could always do that as well. I could just click scan now. The message is going to come up and say this is going to start a scan immediately. So if I say yes, it's going to use the IP ranges and the passwords and all of that that I've set up in my scanner, but instead of doing it on the schedule, it's going to scan right at that moment. Now that doesn't disable your schedule. Your schedule will still function on the normal interval that you've set up, but this will do an immediate scan. So now I'm going to go back, and there's one other area we want to cover here, and that's the agent configuration. Agents have to be installed on all of your devices in order to get full detailed information about all the software and hardware that they contain. Once the agent is on the machine, you'll get all kinds of detailed information back, and the agent will also allow you to do things like remote control or audit now. So if you want to do an audit scan of a particular system immediately, instead of waiting for the BMC client management server to do the normal scan of all the systems, you could actually initiate that scan from within the Trackit inventory on demand. So it's a good idea to push these agents out to your systems. It just gives you better management. And in the future, we'll have more BMC client management functions that you could also do with that agent as well. So I'm going to open my agent configuration, and you have a couple options here for deploying agents. Now, every time you deploy an agent to a system, it's going to use a Trackit inventory license. Some people want to do this for every single machine on their network, whether it's a server, whether it's a desktop, no matter what system it is, they automatically want to install a BMC client management agent onto those machines so they can manage them. If you fall into that boat, basically what you're going to want to do is check this box here and click Save. And notice I get a message here that says I have to configure agent credentials. So we're going to go ahead and look at credentials now because that's important. The credentials are used by BMC client management to push out the agents to these machines. It's important because you need to have credentials in here that have permissions to connect to and install software on these systems. So in the case for Windows, it might be a domain administrator that you have to use, or you may have local accounts that you've created, local admin accounts that are constant across all your Windows machines that you'll put in here. But either way, you have to use an account that is going to have permissions to connect to the Windows systems and deploy the agent. Likewise, for other systems, if you have Macs or Linux systems or anything else, you need to put those credentials in here as well. And what the BMC client management server is going to do, it's going to connect to that system. It's going to see what type of operating system it is, and it's going to try and push down the appropriate agent. And it's going to use all the credentials that are listed here one at a time until it either gets in or it goes through them all and fails and gives up. So I'm going to click New. And so this might be my Windows admin account. I can give it a descriptive name here so I know what it is here in my system. I'll just keep it as administrator and with my default password because I know what that is, and then I save it. Now this is my default Windows admin account for all my workstations on my network, and so I should have no problem pushing agents out now to all my Windows machines. Now I also have some Mac machines on my network, and that's going to be another account, and it's not the same for my network because I have different user accounts. Yours may be the same. You might be using the same user ID and password across the different types of machines, but in mine I'm not. So I'm going to have this one's called admin Mac, and that's my password. I'm going to hit save. Now, one thing I forgot to mention here, which is very important, if you're dealing with a Windows account and a domain, which you probably are, you do need to put the domain name in here. So you need to put the name of the domain, backslash, the name of the account, and then the password, and that will be the proper way to enter your account if you're on a domain. So just go ahead and save that for now. Now that I have all my credentials in here, I could click this checkbox if I want and hit save. And now my BMC client management server is going to try to push an agent to every single machine that's discovered on my network. Now, if I don't want to do this, let's say I have groups of systems that I don't want to have agents on. Maybe I have groups of servers that are in a secure environment and I don't want agents on them. I want to discover them because I want to know they're there, but I don't want to have agents on them. So I want to pick and choose which systems I want to manage with my BMC client management agent. So in that case, we would turn this off, we would click save. So we will go jump over to the asset management module here and track it, take a look at how that would work. So now I've got a bunch of systems that are showing up here in my network. I can group them by type, which will make things a little bit easier to view. So now you can see I've got a bunch of things in here marked other. I've got printers, I've got servers, I have workstations. So let's say I have a workstation here and here's a good one, and I want to push out an agent to this machine. So this is a machine that I want to manage. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to come up here and click my Actions menu, and I'm going to select Audit Now. This will cause a command to be sent to my BMC client management server. The server will then go and try to push an agent directly to this machine, and this will use one of my Track It inventory licenses. Now, say I have a group of systems that I want to do this for. I can select them. I can go to my Actions menu. I can say Audit Now. And again, BMC Client Management will try to push out an agent to all those ones that have been selected. Now, in some cases, you may get a message like this. In this particular case, I have unknown types, and so the system doesn't know what type of agent to push to that machine. So in that particular case, you would hit OK. You would go and look here and see what you've got selected. So I have one that's set up with an unknown operating system. So I'm going to go ahead and only select these. Go back and say Audit Now. And BMC Client Management will go ahead and get ready to send that agent to those devices. Now, once one of your devices has actually been scanned with a detailed agent, you'll see a lot more information than the typical discovery. So this one is actually a system here that's in a work group. It tells you if it's in a work group or a domain, it tells you when it was last scanned, it tells you the operating system, the serial number of the system, and the IP address and the MAC address. If I want to see full details, I can click this little click here button. And now I can see all the information about the system. So here's all the hardware information. I can click the little plus here to expand software. I can check and see which type of antivirus software is on the machine. If I'm tracking any warranty or lease or purchasing information, I would see that information on this tab. And if this asset is linked to any other asset for any reason, like maybe this is a child asset of another asset, I would be able to see those relationships underneath this node here. So I'm going to go ahead and close this dialog here. And I'm going to double click on the system to open the editor, just to show you that the place where you can enter financial information and that type of thing is all on this form. And this form is also customizable through the form customization feature. There are some other asset fields that are not on the default form that you may want to add, or some of these fields you may not use, you may want to remove. You'll notice at the bottom of the asset form itself, there are some tabs, so you can see any tickets or assignments that are created for this asset, and you can also see any other asset relationships that there may be. So we'll go ahead and close this asset. One other thing I want to mention, because it's related to the BMC Client Management Agent, if you own Trackit remote licenses for BMC Client Management, you would be able to click on this action menu and select remote control of the asset that you have selected. And that will fire up another tab in your browser here and start a remote control session of that system. You can also start a remote control session from within the asset itself by clicking on the remote control button here. You can also start a remote control session from within a ticket if you are working on a ticket for a particular asset and you need to connect to that asset. So if I had a particular asset selected here that had the agent installed on it, I could click the remote control button right here, and that would start the remote control session from here. And that concludes a basic overview of the asset management configuration and usage here in Trackit. For more videos in this training series, you can visit our documentation site at docs.bmc.com. If you forget where the documentation is, you can always click the Help link in the upper right-hand corner inside Trackit. Some other useful resources are the Trackit community, where you can talk with other Trackit users and support representatives about how to get the most out of your product. You can reach that site at community.trackit.com. You can also reach our technical support directly by visiting support.trackit.com. And for general product information, you can always visit trackit.com. Thank you for watching, and I hope this video has been helpful to you.